My Uncle Joe's creativity made his photography so special. He had the eye of a child. His sense of humor was unmatched, and it really showed through all of his art.
I worked with a lot of photographers, and Joe was the best. He had such a magnetic personality.
Every picture I see, he just looks so charismatic.
Yes.
Bright blue eyes.
Yes. Anytime he'd see you, hey, like his mouth like lit up, his eyes went wide.
If you were judging somebody by their appearance, you'd say, you know, he's a jock. And then you talk to him for 2 minutes, and he's this deep soul that was a school teacher in DC. When you were with him, you wanted to be better.
And I got a call from my dad, and he's like, we can't find Uncle Joe.
I knew right away that something really sinister had happened.
911 emergency. What is your name?
My name is Heather Snyder.
I'm Heather Snyder. I'm Joe Szymanski's ex-wife.
Okay, Heather, tell me exactly what happened.
I was returning my 2 children to my ex's house. He's missing. We don't know where he is.
His car was there. His phone was there. His wallet was there. Where is he?
All right, so we are here because your ex-husband Joe is missing right now.
It was surreal. Like, what's going on?
We all knew Joe wasn't missing. We all knew Joe was gone. And it was just a couple of days later that they had found his remains.
So at that point, this had gone from a missing persons case to a homicide.
Technically, yeah.
It's like I'm living in a horror movie.
Are you in any relationship right now?
Upon questioning Heather, they asked her who her last boyfriend was, and she mentioned Brandon Holbrook.
The police focused in on Brandon Holbrook as the sole perpetrator.
Brandon Holbrook had no motive.
There are no forensics linking my client to this crime.
This story is not about a guy who decided to drive 200 miles and kill a man that he had never met.
Do you think Heather Snyder played some role in your uncle's murder?
Yes. I wish I had answers. I don't know anything.
It's a big twist in the story. We know each other.
We do.
We grew up together.
We did.
The Heather Snyder I grew up with was an A student.
Mm-hmm.
Cheerleader, field hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most unlikely people to be caught up in a murder case.
Correct.
Did you have any involvement at all in Joe Szymanski's murder?
No.
Do you believe any of it?
No. We need to piece the pieces of the puzzle together.
We know there's more to this story. We can't rest until the whole truth comes out.
The investigation of Joe Szymanski's murder began as a missing persons case.
Hello. Where's everybody at?
I'm not sure where everyone went. They have the drone up.
It was September 4th, 2023 at 7:47 p.m. when sheriff's deputies in Calvert County, Maryland were called to the home of the well-known photographer.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm Heather. I'm Joe's ex-wife.
Okay.
His ex-wife, Heather Snyder, met them in the driveway. She would tell authorities she had arrived by car at about 7 p.m. from her home in Pennsylvania.
I was supposed to return the kids to him at 7 o'clock tonight.
To hand off custody of their then 8-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son.
Kids went in the house because he usually comes right out like he knows that they're coming.
But nobody was home. Heather had checked with the neighbors and called 911.
Yeah, I don't know what I even should do at this point. Everything about it's weird.
Okay.
All the signs suggested Joe Szymanski should be there. His car was in the driveway.
Joe, you home?
His keys and phones were in the house. Authorities started searching the property.
So I'm gonna try to put the drone up.
Do you know if he ever goes out hiking in the woods or anything?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
I answered their questions about everything. They asked, the situation.
Among other things, investigators wanted to know about Heather and Joe's divorce from the previous year.
I know it was very contentious, so there was a lot of arguing. Specifically, the drop-off location for the kids was their biggest argument.
Joe Szymanski's neighbors, Allison Stinson Poundsbury and Colton Poundsbury, were home that night when Heather Snyder knocked on the door.
She had asked me if Joe was here. I said no.
How was Heather acting?
So Heather was acting a little annoyed. She was annoyed that he wasn't here for drop-off after she had already driven 4 hours.
The Poundsburys went to Joe Szymanski's home, telling authorities they hadn't seen Joe since the previous afternoon.
Yeah, we saw him yesterday about 4 o'clock. He was helping me with some drywall. Okay. We gave him some dinner.
Any depression issues?
None that I noticed.
What do you think is going on?
I have no idea.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
The Poundsburys ended up giving Heather and the kids places to sleep for the night. But first, Heather went inside Joe's house.
I didn't have any clothes for the kids. So it was late at night. They let me go in and get pajamas.
Do you remember how you were feeling when you went inside?
Upset. It was surreal.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. It's a lot to deal with.
I need to go back for my kids. What am I going to tell them?
How could he not be there, especially knowing that the kids are going to be there?
It was about 2.5 hours later that Heather Snyder called Joe's older brother, Ted Szymanski. And Ted's wife, also named Heather.
I felt like I was punched in the stomach.
So there was no way in the world that Joe would have missed this meeting with the kids. Something's wrong.
It fell to Ted to deliver the news to the Szymanski sister, Mary.
When I heard that Joe was missing, I fell to my knees and said a prayer because this was such a bizarre situation. It felt like I needed something greater than me right away.
And then the morning after Joe disappeared, investigators noticed something they'd been unable to see at night. There was blood in his driveway.
Did Joe have any enemies?
Not that we knew of.
An investigator asked Heather Snyder to come to the station.
Do you know of anybody that'd be an enemy of his?
No.
Are you in any relationship right now?
No.
No boyfriends or?
No.
But Heather told them she had recently broken up with someone who lived near her in Pennsylvania.
I had a boyfriend, but briefly. But I don't.
Recently?
Yeah, within the last couple months, yeah.
What's his name?
Brandon Holbrook.
The name Brandon Holbrook entered the scene quite quickly.
The Szymanskis say Joe told them he'd never met Brandon Holbrook.
All right. How long were you and Brandon together?
We were friends for a while, since 2022, I want to say.
Okay.
Or it might have been like November 2021.
Authorities then decided to look more closely at Brandon Holbrook. They pulled his car registration and discovered a camera had picked up his license plate near Joe's house the very day Joe vanished. Investigators now had a person of interest and headed to Pennsylvania, notifying police there.
This one was definitely different than anything that we've seen before.
On September 5, 2023, Sergeant John Chester of the Mifflin County, Pennsylvania Police got a call that Maryland authorities were investigating a homicide. They wanted to talk to a person of interest, Brandon Holbrook.
We've arrested Mr. Holbrook in the past.
Over the years, Holbrook had pleaded guilty to at least 5 counts of indecent exposure. They approached his house at about 11 p.m.
This is where you walked up
Yes.
An investigator noted Holbrook's eyes were bloodshot and that there was a strange particular smell both on him and the covered bed of his pickup in the driveway.
This truck reeks.
Oh, man, that smells terrible. Yeah.
It smelled like death.
Holbrook told authorities he was a driver for a Pennsylvania plant that processes chicken slaughterhouse waste.
Just have a seat right there, bud.
He denied being near Joe's house or anywhere in Maryland the day Joe disappeared.
We knew his truck was in Maryland.
One police report indicates he also denied any contact with Joe. Another says he was not being entirely truthful and appeared nervous. So, in the early morning hours of September 6, 2023, investigators arrested Brandon Holbrook for the murder of Joe Szymanski. By then, Detective Jessica Arendt had reported for duty.
I was called in when they got back to the station with him.
And helped them get warrants for Holbrook's truck and house.
We still didn't know the magnitude of what we were dealing with.
In the truck cab, investigators found gloves and plastic sheeting. And in the truck bed, something described as human blood.
It looked like a homicide scene.
There were firearms in the house and plastic garbage bags, bleach, Lysol, and wet tools in a trailer outside. In the garage,
there was an open tool case.
And next to it, an open package of power saw blades. But investigators didn't spot a matching saw.
Is that a tool that's powerful enough to dismember a body?
Possibly.
Authorities with cadaver dogs began following a dirt road catty-corner to Brandon Holbrook's house, leading into the woods. The next day, they made a grisly discovery in a clearing near a creek.
They found the jawbone with some of the ear and some teeth still intact.
Incident reports show there was also a burn barrel which smelled of decomposition. Scattered nearby, piles of ash. Authorities sent the material off for testing, but they had a strong hunch they were human remains, and a strong hunch whose.
It's a hope that we can keep his memory alive.
Fearing the worst, Joe Szymanski's family and friends gathered in Washington.
He was a person that would give you his shirt off his back, even in a rainstorm.
Joe met Alton McDougall in 2000 after coming to D.C. to teach middle school history and social studies. Alton says Joe became his mentor, exposing him to new ideas and to photography.
He taught you how to see the world.
Yes, through a lens.
They eventually became friends, says Alton, and partnered in the photo business at Eastern Market. That's where Joe first started dating Heather Snyder. She was then a single mom of 3 kids and was running a vegetable business.
He was fun, very charming.
Then he swept you off your feet?
He did.
Heather and Joe married in July 2014 and bought a house in rural Calvert County. Heather gave birth to a daughter and a son a year later. But Joe's family and friends say by 2020, the marriage was in trouble.
Heather Snyder and Joe Szymanski were never on equal footing financially.
The spending was definitely a problem.
Alton says Joe wrote Heather a check for thousands of dollars to pay off a debt on a house she owned. Then he gave her more money to help her launch a new business.
I used to tell him all the time, she's using you.
Heather Snyder says that's not true. She was never after Joe's money. She blames the difficulties in the marriage on Joe, saying he could behave erratically, and that he started pushing her and her older children away after their own kids were born.
Joe's attention was just on those 2 children. It was almost obsessive to a degree. He cared less about what I thought or what I was saying, and it was all about those 2.
She says Joe was emotionally abusive to her, and there was one instance, she claims, when he got physical.
He body checked me into a car, and that was after chasing me around the house.
The Szymanski family says Heather's abuse allegations don't match the Joe they knew. By 2021, Heather says she'd had enough.
I was afraid he was going to snap and hurt me, and then my children were going to see it.
And you just left.
I left.
He was devastated.
Joe's friend Annalie Werner noticed it too.
That spark that made Joe was gone. It was gone.
Heather had moved back to her hometown of Newport, Pennsylvania. She told investigators that it was a few months later that she began seeing Brandon Holbrook. All the while, say Joe's friends and family, he and Heather were arguing over custody and cash. It got so bad, Heather says, she began recording their interactions around the kids. Annalie says Joe was also upset and made recordings too about Heather for their children to hear one day.
The mom has a way of manipulating everyone. She's toxic. Honestly, I am honestly afraid for your mental and emotional safety.
There's no safety in mom for me. It's dangerous to be close to mom for me.
Joe was in a contentious, ugly divorce.
But Annalie says things had slowly started going Joe's way. Though he and Heather had joint legal custody of the kids, he had primary physical custody when school was in session. He'd bought $1 million life insurance policy, naming the children as beneficiaries. And just weeks before he vanished, the court had reduced the settlement he owed Heather Snyder.
Joe had started winning.
Annalie and the Szymanski family say, thinking back over the former couple's problems, they began to wonder if Heather Snyder could have known more about Joe's disappearance than she was saying. In mid-September 2023, forensic experts matched the remains that they found in that clearing near Brandon Holbrook's house to Joe Szymanski. Mifflin County Coroner Andrea Alcalde.
What was Joe Szymanski's cause of death?
He had a gunshot wound to the head.
What was his manner of death?
Homicide.
Could you just state your name? My name is Brandon Holbrook. This thing has my whole head messed up.
Authorities had uncovered evidence that didn't look good for Brandon Holbrook.
We knew the white truck had been in Maryland based on the license plate reader had read the tag, and the tag matched the vehicle that was sitting here.
And with the saw blades in Holbrook's garage, the cleaning supplies and tools in his trailer, and Joe's remains in the clearing nearby, it all seemed to suggest that Holbrook had killed Joe in Maryland and brought his body to Pennsylvania. But for all the evidence investigators had, the case still contained some inconvenient truths.
Did you find any of Joe Szymanski's remains on Brandon Holbrook's property?
No.
Did you find a murder weapon?
No.
In addition, records show Holbrook's phone had only ping towers near his Pennsylvania home. The afternoon and evening Joe disappeared. And remember, images of Holbrook's truck in Maryland did not show who was driving. And when the blood in the truck bed was tested, it wasn't human, it was animal.
Because he had access to the chicken plant, did he put stuff in there and cover it up with the chicken remains?
Joe's family and friends had trouble believing Holbrook could have devised such an elaborate plot without help.
I do not believe that Brandon Holbrook is the only person involved in my brother's death. I think he was highly inspired by Heather Snyder. Heather Snyder is the common denominator in this entire picture.
Alton McDougal also thinks Heather Snyder was involved. A few days before Joe went missing, Alton says they were hanging out, and Joe told him Heather was coming over to drop off the kids, instead of meeting halfway between their homes like they usually did. Alton says he told Joe that concerned him.
I just don't want her to come to your house, dude. I just don't trust her.
He says Joe dismissed his concern, but the conversation haunts him to this day.
I get chills right now.
What are you feeling? That if he'd listened to you, he might still be here.
I mean, he might be, right?
Joe's family and friends acknowledge their suspicion of Heather Snyder was just a gut feeling, and that the investigation hasn't turned up any evidence of her involvement. Nevertheless, Alton says he shared his speculation with authorities.
Heather at least planned it. Her boyfriend had at least helped.
He says he and the family find it strange that Heather Snyder reported Joe as missing before he was even an hour late.
You're jumping to
he's missing.
that he's missing, like
calling the police.
I mean, and you're gonna call 911.
Especially, they say, because she had then waited more than 2.5 hours to notify them.
That seems like an extraordinary long period of time before she'd let the immediate family know that Joe was missing.
And they questioned Heather's behavior when she went in Joe's house with investigators.
And she walks in the house and she begins to cry, sobbing over her ex-husband that she would do anything to get away from.
They suspected it was all an act, something Heather Snyder denies.
She just wanted to paint a picture that he was missing because she knew the plan.
And the Szymanskis believe she was untruthful with investigators about Brandon Holbrook.
Are you in any relationship right now?
No.
She told the police that she broke up with him and that they were no longer together.
Janine says she suspects Heather had used Brandon Holbrook to get rid of Joe.
So she just needed it done, and she found her person that would do that for her.
You think Heather Snyder was the mastermind?
Yes.
Is there any doubt in your mind?
No.
Brandon Holbrook was in custody and authorities had combed the clearing. But weeks later, Mary Szymanski was visiting the site when she found more burnt remains. She acknowledges searchers may have simply missed them in the woods, but she and coroner Andrea Alcalde believe there's another possibility.
I think the more likely is that there were remains dumped after the fact.
That would mean they were dumped by someone else.
That's a bombshell. Yeah.
But Alcalde says Maryland authorities seem skeptical. The Calvert County Sheriff's Office declined our request for an interview. Still, the theory that someone else was involved in Joe's death is a point Holbrook's attorneys will argue from the start of his trial.
Only one person's life is better today than it was before the murder of Joseph Szymanski, and that is Heather Snyder.
Did you have anything to do with Joe's death?
I did not.
On March 31, 2025, the trial of Brandon Holbrook for the murder of Joe Szymanski got underway. Prosecutors wanted a conviction on premeditated murder. They argued Holbrook fatally shot Joe Szymanski in Maryland, drove him back to Pennsylvania, put chicken parts in his truck to cover his tracks, then disposed of Joe's remains in that clearing near Holbrook's house. And they brought in the barrel searchers found, suggesting it was used to burn him. But Holbrook's defense team says it was a tactic.
It was there for the emotional impact.
There were no cameras allowed in court. Defense attorney Brendan Callahan tried to turn the jury's attention away from Brandon Holbrook and towards Heather Snyder. She was mentioned more than 400 times at trial, though she hasn't been charged with a crime.
The only person with an obvious motive was Heather Snyder. She was in a heated custody fight that she was not going well for her.
And Callahan told the jury Heather Snyder had a million other reasons too. If Joe was dead, Callahan said, she might stand to gain control of his life insurance payout, since her children, the beneficiaries, are still minors.
When you throw in the $1 million life insurance policy, the motives write themselves.
Heather told us she knew nothing about Joe's life insurance before he died. Prosecutors kept the focus on Holbrook. They introduced videos of his truck near Joe's house in Maryland the day Joe disappeared. Holbrook shopping for cleaning supplies in Pennsylvania the morning after. And video that's hard to see, but that they say shows Holbrook near his white truck dumping something, which turned out to be burned human remains. It put the defense in a corner.
There's evidence that he is involved at some point, but there's very little evidence that he's the one who committed the actual murder.
And while Brandon Holbrook's truck might have been spotted near Joe's house that day, Callahan says someone else could have been driving it.
Brandon Holbrook had absolutely no reason to kill Joseph Szymanski.
The state contended Holbrook did have a motive: love for Heather Snyder and hate for Joe Szymanski, intense enough that Holbrook took matters into his own hands.
This man was obsessed with Heather Snyder.
Prosecutors painted a picture of that obsession, showing an image taken nearly 7 months before the murder of a car Holbrook also owned near Joe's house, and they showed a text exchange between Heather and Holbrook from January 21st, 2023, also months before the murder, in which she is complaining about Joe. "I'm just tired of the abuse," Heather told him. "It's been years upon years." Holbrook later suggested she see a therapist, but added, "I have other solutions in mind, but probably not the best way to go."
That could mean a lot of things. I mean, it's very easy to read in it the most nefarious intent, and that's what the state tried to do in this case, but it could mean just about anything. It could be a joke.
Whatever it meant, Heather didn't respond to Holbrook immediately. She later texted him, "I'm looking for a therapist."
Do you think, how could Heather Snyder possibly not know?
There's a lot in this case that you could say that for about Heather Snyder, and her behavior around the time of the incident is overall very suspicious.
Callahan's co-counsel Thomas Mooney points to texts between Heather and Holbrook, suggesting they were still involved shortly before the murder.
She indicated to the police, but that the relationship had cooled.
No boyfriends or?
No.
But the text messages seemed to suggest otherwise.
6 days before the murder, Holbrook wrote, "I like the smell of your hair on my pillow." And later in the day, she texted, "Wish I was in your bed." The next morning, he wrote back, "You can come to my bed anytime, XO."
Heather Snyder is lying to the police and saying that she didn't have an involvement with Holbrook.
In another text, Heather complained specifically about her custody agreement with Joe. "I keep thinking karma is going to catch up with him," she wrote, "but I'm tired of being patient."
Anything that suggests that there were other people involved makes Brandon Holbrook's role in this unclear, and therefore is suggestive of his innocence.
But prosecutors introduced texts suggesting Heather Snyder was surprised to find Joe missing when she got to his house. "I have no idea where he is," she wrote to Holbrook. "The car is here." Both the defense and the prosecutors wanted to question Heather under oath, but when she was called as a witness, she declined to testify, invoking her Fifth Amendment privilege.
What does Heather Snyder pleading the Fifth say to you?
That a truthful answer could tend to incriminate her.
And Callahan wanted the jury to consider something else about Heather Snyder.
She had a gun?
She did.
Heather had told authorities about a gun Holbrook had given her before the murder, but there were never any bullets or casings found, so it would have been impossible to tell if it was the murder weapon. Still, Callahan says authorities were slow to collect it from her.
That wasn't investigated until weeks before the trial started, even though they knew about it.
And he says they failed to ever search Heather's home or property.
She has acres of land, that the police are on that land, and they don't even ask to look around. They just take her word for everything.
Prosecutors say there was a thorough investigation, and they saved what might be the most explosive evidence for near the end of their case. There's no way Heather could have killed Joe, they say. Why? The afternoon Joe disappeared, you can see Heather on video, buying pizza in Pennsylvania about 3 hours away.
Heather Snyder has an alibi. I mean, she's on surveillance video buying pizza miles away.
Yes.
She couldn't have physically gotten there in time.
Yes, but there are all sorts of different roles that one can play in a crime.
He says Heather could have encouraged Brandon Holbrook, or at least known about his plan. Holbrook doesn't take the stand, but in closings, his attorneys remind the jury there's no proof he was even in Maryland that evening, let alone at Joe Szymanski's house.
The burden is on the state, and we thought that they presented a strong case that he was involved after the fact, but we're still waiting on the evidence that he was ever in that driveway.
But it took just 80 minutes for the jury to reach a verdict. Brandon Holbrook is guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder of Joe Szymanski.
How are you feeling?
Extremely happy.
Joe's loved ones were happy, but not satisfied. At sentencing, Annalie Werner presented a photo montage of Joe that also included some of those audio recordings about Heather that he made for their children.
And I'm worried about you guys growing up in a world where you're afraid of mom. She takes her love away from you. And if you piss her off, you're done.
And then a number of friends and family addressed the court, suggesting Heather could also be at least in part to blame for what happened. The judge gave Holbrook life without parole and said he was not closing the book on the case.
You're at the center of this case.
I am.
Do you remember the last time we saw each other before this story reconnected us?
I believe it was at homecoming in 1998.
It was more than 25 years ago here on our high school sports fields in tiny Newport, Pennsylvania. Heather Snyder and I had grown up together. In fact, I was the 1997 homecoming queen, and she was my successor.
I put a crown on your head, and now here we are.
And we're back.
We hadn't communicated since then until reporting this story brought me back to some of the most familiar terrain of my life. But it's taken me into uncharted territory in the process, confronting someone from my youth who has been caught up in a murder case. Heather told me she wanted to set the record straight. She agreed to the interview with no questions off limits. She acknowledged she was upset with Joe during their custody fight.
Did you ever say to Brandon Holbrook, I wish Joe were dead?
No. The most I said to Brandon was that I thought Joe should be in jail for the way he was acting.
Did Brandon tell you he wanted to kill Joe?
No.
Did you help him cover it up?
No. No.
So what about those texts between her and Brandon Holbrook, like when he mentions other solutions to help deal with Joe?
I thought it was just a joke.
It didn't cross your mind for a second that he might hurt Joe?
No.
As for her text about karma catching up with Joe, in which she wrote she was tired of being patient.
That's how I was feeling.
Do you think a text like that may have triggered Brandon?
I don't know.
Heather, who at the time was in that custody fight with Joe, says she ended her relationship with Brandon Holbrook about a month before the murder, when Holbrook had been arrested again for indecent exposure.
What was the reason that you told Brandon you needed to end the relationship?
Because of his charge.
The Szymanskis suspect Heather was actually worried if Joe heard she was dating a sex offender, she would lose custody of their kids. They believe Heather continued to secretly see Holbrook.
About a week before Joe went missing, Brandon Holbrook texted you, I like the smell of your hair on my pillow.
He did. Mm-hmm.
Were you with him?
I stopped by his house.
It sounds like you're still involved.
We were friends.
That you were intimate then.
We were friends.
Heather also texted Brandon, wish I was in your bed.
Weren't you and Brandon still involved this whole time?
We weren't. We weren't.
People are gonna watch and say, you're lying.
We were friends. It was hard to give up a friend.
Why was there a smell of your hair on his pillow?
Because I was probably laying on his pillow.
She says they were only talking.
What did you talk about?
That was the last time. It was just like, it was almost like a goodbye, honestly.
What did Brandon say? Was he upset?
We were both upset. We were both crying.
Heather told us that even after Joe's murder,
I still have love for Brandon.
Wow.
Wow is right.
How?
I think, obviously, psychologically, he snapped over something. It's not like I don't think he should be in jail. I think he did something horrible, horrific. He hurt my family, he hurt me.
If you could see him face to face, what would be your first question?
Why? What happened?
And while she hasn't seen him in person, she did have a chance to ask him. Shortly before his sentencing, she accepted his call from jail.
This call will be recorded and is subject to monitoring at any time.
Heather tells Holbrook she believes Joe's family is trying to incriminate her.
Shemanskis are trying to prove that I did something wrong.
Never in a million years will I say you had anything to do with this, I swear.
Because I didn't. I just wish I knew what happened. I just want the truth.
Holbrook tells her,
I would love to tell you everything that I know, but I'm not going to do it on one of those recorded lines.
And then he denies killing Joe.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. I never saw Joe, talked to Joe, had any interaction whatsoever with Joe his entire life. I promise you that.
Heather says Holbrook never confessed to her, and she never had an inkling of his plans. She says there is nothing suspicious about her calling 911 so quickly when she didn't find Joe at the house. She says it was her divorce attorney who advised her to make the call, and a criminal lawyer who advised her to plead the fifth in the trial.
Did you have something to hide?
No.
If you don't have anything to hide, why not just get up there and testify?
People twist your words.
And the words Joe used to describe Heather in those audio messages?
It's dangerous to be close to Mom for me.
Heather told us Joe was twisting reality at the time. She says Joe was the dangerous one, and she created a website, Heather's Abuse Story, detailing her side. We also asked Heather about that gun she says Brandon Holbrook gave her before Joe's murder. She says it was only for target practice.
Is there any chance that gun is the murder weapon?
I don't know. No, I mean, obviously it was locked in my closet.
Is there anything you're not telling us?
No.
Look me in the eye. Are you lying about anything?
I am not.
Either you're a bold-faced liar or you are extraordinarily unlucky.
I am unlucky.
Heather says her focus is on raising her and Joe's children, and she's sad that they'll grow up without a father.
They have a very happy memories of their father, and I try to do what I can to honor and keep that safe.
She knows the Shemanskis want to see the kids, but says Joe's relatives can't expect a full relationship with them while publicly pointing a finger at her.
There needs to be a place we move on other than this, where they're constantly blaming me for something that I didn't do.
Are you afraid authorities will come for you?
No.
Not at all?
I'm not worried at all. No.
If Joe never met Heather Snyder, Joe would be alive today.
Calvert County, Maryland's top prosecutor, Robert Harvey, declined our request for an interview, but wrote to us that there was a thorough and exhaustive investigation into Mr. Shemanski's death. Mr. Holbrook received a fair and impartial trial. Because Mr. Holbrook's case is under appeal, it remains open. Therefore, I'm not going to respond to questions regarding the investigation, and I'm not going to speculate on what may or may not happen in the future. And when we asked Pennsylvania authorities about Heather Snyder,
is there a current investigation into Heather Snyder?
I can't answer that question.
Should there be?
I can't answer that question.
Do you think Heather Snyder is involved in this crime in any way?
I can't answer that.
But you do know the answer?
Yes. But I'm not allowed to say.
So many people watching are going to be frustrated, and they're going to think, logically, you have to have known something.
Right. But I didn't. That's the torturous part. Because people it's almost like they want to believe that I was involved with it. They want that true crime narrative. And it just simply wasn't the case.
So, Captain, just where are we? What is this place?
So we're in the town of Kingsbury at the bridge that goes over the canal on New Swamp Road.
July 24th, 2005, investigators are called out here. What brought them out here?
So we had a report that a fisherman had been going by. He saw what he thought to be a toolbox that goes in the back of a pickup truck floating.
What did investigators find inside that toolbox?
They found a woman's body that was duct taped and handcuffed and wrapped in a comforter. It was terrible. It was a terrible thing to see.
In January of 1996, I just finished my first semester of college in upstate New York. My ex-boyfriend, Sean Doyle, and I had been broken up for approximately 4 months. My name is Cece Opanowski. My mother was going away for the weekend, so I had this whole big house to myself. And my friend Shannon and we were very close. I said, well, let's stay at my house because there's no one around.
It was just a girls' night. We just wanted to chill out.
You know, it's winter, it's cold, we built a fire. My parents had a great stereo system, so, you know, we put on some music and danced around and, you know, just did girl stuff.
We both went to Sage Junior College of Albany. I'm really introverted, and she was very bubbly and happy and chipper, and she brought me out of my shell.
When you were first meeting her, was Sean Doyle around at the time?
Yes, he was obnoxious. She would argue with him a lot on the phone.
And then in January is when this incident happens at her house?
Mm-hmm. We were having a good time. It was just the two of us.
But he keeps calling.
Mm-hmm. Wanting to know what we were doing, wanting to know if he can come over. She had a cell phone, and I was like, just turn it off. She's like, no, because if I turn it off, he's gonna come here. We finally wake up, and all we wanted was coffee. I had the mindset, I'm like, oh, I can't go out in public looking like I'm a mess. Let me go home and get dressed.
So Shannon leaves, and I get up and go around the house doing whatever, watching TV, you know, being a lazy teenager. And I get a knock at the door, and I open it, and it's him. And he said, I just want to talk to you. And once he was inside, things got much different. He pushed me onto the couch, started, you know, holding me down and restraining me and, you know, yelling at me. And he picked me up and pushed me against the French doors and kept banging me against the French doors.
After I got done out of the shower and getting ready, I called. Nobody answered.
My hair was in a ponytail, and he picked me up, held me up, and cut my hair off. It was gone, just all of it. He had already been choking me, and I thought he was going to stab me.
I called her back a half an hour later. She still didn't answer. And that's when my eyebrows kind of went up.
I'm in complete shock. I can't believe it's happening, and I have to figure out how to get out of it. But during this time, the phone continues to ring.
I waited a couple minutes, and I called her back.
I explained to him, if I don't answer this phone, my mother will call the police. So I do pick up the phone, and it's Shannon.
I said, hey, are you okay?
And I don't know why I did this, but I started unloading the dishwasher. And I'm saying to her, no, yeah, everything's fine, no. And no kept coming out of my mouth. And he didn't pick up on it. but she sure did. And that's when she said, "Is he there?" And I said, "Yes."
And I hung up the phone, then I called the cops.
Believe me, I do realize how lucky I am.
Investigators are continuing to piece the case together now that they found Lorie Leonard gagged and bound with duct tape. In a pickup decomposed body was found floating in a toolbox.
I'm fortunate that it could have been much, much worse. I can tell you that I knew nothing was ever going to be the same. And it was going to change the way I looked at everything.
For Cece Opanowski, it has taken almost 30 years to talk about the day her former high school boyfriend, Sean Doyle, attacked her in her family's home in Hudson Falls, New York, and then used scissors to cut off her ponytail.
What was it like to have your hair cut off in this way? Demeaning. Think that's why he did it?
Probably. Just to make sure he could knock me down somewhere.
On that day, January 27th, 1996, as Doyle went in and out of violent rages, at one point holding the scissors to her throat, Cece says she wasn't sure she would make it out alive, until she says her college roommate, Shannon McAuliffe, called.
When she finally picks up the phone, what did you hear in her voice?
Fear.
Shannon says she knew that Doyle had been harassing Cece. So when Cece told her Doyle was there, Shannon notified police and then rushed over to Cece's house.
I pulled onto her street and I parked. And then I saw the police officers and everything, so I kind of went in after the fact. She looked terrified and angry and sad.
Cece says she thought when police arrived, they would make her feel safe, but that's not exactly what happened.
They do not put him in handcuffs, and they put us in the back of the same police car. Mind you, all of this time, I clearly look like I've been assaulted. My hair is completely cut off.
And when they arrived at the police station,
I was like, why are we here? Why are we in the same room?
Cece says instead of separating them, police questioned them together.
And they made it seem like it was some fight between two young kids that turned, slightly dark.
When 48 Hours reached out to the Hudson Falls Police Department, they acknowledged that law enforcement's response to domestic violence has evolved over the past several decades to better work with and support victims. Police arrested Doyle and charged him with menacing, harassment, and trespassing.
Looking at it and you're saying, did this really happen to me? How could this happen to me?
Cece Opanowski and Sean Doyle grew up in the small town of Hudson Falls, located in upstate New York. To protect Cece's privacy, we chose not to show the actual house where she lived.
He was nice to me. He was really nice.
When Cece started dating Sean Doyle, she was just 15 years old, a sophomore in high school. Doyle was 1 year older.
We would go and do lots of things together. We just hung out all the time.
Cece says Doyle had troubles at home. During his junior year, Doyle told her his parents kicked him out. So Cece begged her parents to let him move in with them.
Did you feel sorry for him?
Oh, definitely.
Soon after he moved into Cece's family home, she says she saw a change in Doyle's behavior. Cece says he became jealous and would secretly follow her around, something she says she didn't think at the time was a big deal.
When you're a 16, 17-year-old girl and, you're looking at Oh, jealousy, he must love me so much, and that's why he's doing this. Or he followed me home, he's so worried about me. But is that really what the case is? When you look back as an adult and someone with experience, you think that's probably not okay.
And Doyle showed even more possessive behavior that Cece found troubling.
He, at one point, did get a tattoo. It was a heart on his arm, and it had my name in the middle.
What did you say?
Why would you do that?
And his response?
I love you.
Was it a red flag?
Definitely.
During his senior year, Cece says Doyle dropped out of high school and was working odd jobs that he couldn't keep.
And this is where things start to get darker. He doesn't have any prospects. He knows that I'm getting ready to go away to school. And to him, his whole life is about to completely change.
But Cece says she stuck by him, writing in her senior yearbook, "I love you, Sean." And in the summer of 1995, when she left to attend what is now Russell Sage College in Albany, they agreed to stay together and see each other on weekends. But at the end of September, things took a scary turn when Cece told Doyle she would not be coming home every weekend to see him. Doyle showed up at her dorm.
He stood outside, basically threatening that he was going to kill me.
And now he's threatening not just you, but anyone around you.
Basically anyone around me. So he was arrested.
Doyle was charged with harassment and trespassing. It was the final straw for Cece, who says she broke it off with Doyle for good, and he moved out of her parents' house. Later that winter, that's when Sean Doyle showed up and viciously attacked her at her home.
I know he threatened a lot, but did you ever believe that Sean Doyle would have physically hurt you?
Not until that day. Not in that way.
After the attack, Cece returned to college and finished up her freshman year. But Shannon says her friend had changed.
I think it had a profound impact on her life.
I was always looking over my shoulder. I bought myself a Swiss Army knife. I'm having night terrors, waking up crying, waking up screaming, not being able to sleep. Awful, awful.
So 8 months after the attack, when it was time to take the case to trial, Cece, who was still just a teenager at 19 years old, told prosecutors she couldn't go through with it. She says she was too traumatized and scared.
I didn't want to have to face him in court. I didn't want to be going over this over and over and over again. I really wanted it to go away.
Doyle was offered a deal. He pleaded guilty to menacing in the second degree and was sentenced to just 3 years probation. Cece transferred colleges and moved hours away from Hudson Falls, New York.
I needed peace, and I didn't know how to get it.
Cece tried to forget her past, but she says she was haunted by a conversation she had with the prosecutor.
She said, based on what I see here, he is going to do this again to another person. And that has, for the past 28 years, stuck in my head.
Nine years after Cece Opanowski left upstate New York for a new life far away from Sean Doyle, 33-year-old Lorie Leonard disappeared.
Say hi, Lorie.
Lorie Leonard was a single mom who lived with her 2 sons, Austin, who was 9 at the time, and Zachary, 5, in Chittenango, a small town outside Syracuse, New York.
She was a very caring mother. The memories of her, just us always being happy together, spending time, kind of always the 3 of us.
Say hi.
It was just a lot of love and affection.
Her dream was to have a home, a father figure for her kids, and for them to be happy. She wanted the white picket fence.
Jennifer Leonard was Lorie's older sister.
We were good friends, but I was a little bit of a bossy mother to her. I had been through a lot of things already in my life and my relationships. And I was very, I would say, overprotective.
In 2003, Lorie met a man on a dating website, Cupid.com. His name, Sean Doyle. Online dating was new back then, so Jennifer was skeptical about him.
He was not charismatic. He was not social. He was like a piece of furniture that you just walked around.
But she says Lorie didn't agree. She only saw the good in people.
She would say, you know, he's misunderstood or he's shy.
Jennifer says Lorie told her very little about Doyle, except that he lived 3 hours away in Hudson Falls, New York, and worked at an ice cream factory. She also mentioned that Doyle was on probation.
She told me that he was a boxer, that he was protecting a woman at a bar and was arrested because he used some of his professional boxing moves.
Did you ever see any sort of evidence of his professional boxing? I mean, do you think he was even a boxer ever?
No. I didn't buy the stories that he was selling her. It sounded like he was trying to be something that he was not.
Jennifer says after her sister met Doyle, Lorie became distant.
I would talk to Lorie 3 times a day.
And then when Sean came into the picture?
It was a little quiet.
And things only got worse.
I had called her one night and he was over there and all I could hear in the background was him yelling at her. And that I was like, what is this? And she's like, you know, I'll call you back. It's not a big deal. But I think what scared me more than anything was when he was caught yelling at her, it stopped. The kind of guys that, you know, don't want anyone else to see what happens behind closed doors. He was sneaky.
Soon after this incident, Lorie ended her romantic relationship with Doyle. Lorie told Jennifer they agreed to be just friends and that he was fine with it.
And I was like, no, he's not. Nope. People like that aren't just okay with being friends.
Despite the breakup, Doyle would still drive 3 hours from Hudson Falls to visit Lorie, oftentimes hanging out at the bar where she waitressed late at night.
Sean always called me, and he'd call me to get advice.
Dorothy Tucker lived down the street from Doyle in Hudson Falls and considered him a close friend.
I saw a sweet guy who would bend over backwards if I asked him to.
However, after the relationship with Lorie ended, she says Doyle told her he had followed Lorie and watched her as she went out on a date.
I was like, Sean, you can't do that. She does not want to be with you.
Were you starting to get concerned about him and his behavior at that point?
No, because he agreed with me. I didn't see the monster that he really was. He hid it quite well.
On Friday, April 29th, 2005, Lorie, who was living with Jennifer, moved to a new rental apartment.
Usually people are miserable when they're moving. She was just happy.
Lorie's nephew, Dustin Delator, who was 15 at the time, helped with the move.
She wanted her own place. She saw her future in that day.
Also helping with the move was Sean Doyle, who offered up use of his truck.
She had asked a couple other people before that, so he was a last resort. He was still playing the I'm your friend.
What was Sean like that day?
Standoffish, quiet.
Jennifer says the move went smoothly until Doyle decided to hang around and stayed with Lorie in her new place for days.
It was starting to get on her nerves now.
5 days after the move, Jennifer says Lorie told her Doyle was finally leaving because Lorie had plans to go to Albany for the afternoon.
She was supposed to go pick up the tickets.
Tickets to a Yankees game, a gift from someone she had met at work.
Were you concerned at all about her going to pick up tickets from a stranger?
Yes, but that was how she was. She was very trusting.
On Wednesday, May 4th, Jennifer called Lorie in the afternoon, hoping to catch her while she was heading to Albany.
And it kept going straight to voicemail.
Was that weird?
Oh, her phone never went straight to voicemail. It was never off.
At first, Jennifer thought she may have gotten lost on the drive or that her phone battery had died.
It wasn't a thought at the time that something bad happened, just that, you know, where is she?
24 hours later, when Lorie never called or returned home, Jennifer notified the Chenango police.
Patrol started looking into her whereabouts at that time.
Lead investigator Wade Irwin searched Lorie's rental apartment.
She had just moved into the home. There were still lots of boxes, items being unpacked. Didn't appear that there was any signs of a break-in or a crime that occurred at the home, but her car was there.
And he said there was something else unsettling about the scene.
And there was one shoe in the center of the bed. That was odd.
Investigator Irwin says he was determined to speak to one person.
The last person that we were able to determine that saw her was Sean Doyle.
But before investigators could reach out to Doyle, Jennifer says she tracked down Doyle's number and called him herself.
Sean, have you talked to Lorie? And he goes, no, I haven't talked to her in a couple of days. Wasn't she supposed to get tickets the other night? And I'm like, yeah, she was, but we haven't heard from her since. I'm like, if she calls you, let us know because the phone's off. And he's like, oh yeah, definitely let you know. When I hung up, I was like, I had chills and I'm like, he's full of it. He knows something.
As the days went by, Chinanango investigators reached out to everyone who had contact with Lorie Leonard prior to her disappearance, including the man she was supposed to get Yankees tickets from in Albany.
He was an executive for a company. We were able to track him down. He was interviewed.
Detective Wade Irwin says the executive waited for Lorie in Albany, and when she never showed up, he called her and even left a message.
Who was calling with concern of where she was. We're supposed to meet up. I got the tickets. I'm here. Are you okay? I hope an accident didn't happen.
His alibi checked out, but Lorie's phone records would reveal a lot more about another person who hadn't called.
What became concerning for myself as a person that cared about her, supposedly.
Sean Doyle.
Sean Doyle. Never called, never left a message.
When Chinanango police went to interview Lorie's former boyfriend, he told them that on the day she disappeared, he left her apartment about 3 p.m. and then drove 3 hours home to Hudson Falls.
He just always had said all along that he left her and she was alive at the apartment.
When they checked out his alibi, Detective Irwin says they couldn't clear him. Yet Doyle was cooperative and even allowed investigators to search his truck and take photos. When they searched Doyle's glove compartment, they found something curious.
There was a key with a serial number on it.
As investigators kept an eye out on Doyle and continued to search for Lorie, Jennifer says her family struggled to explain Lorie's disappearance to her 2 young sons.
After several days to several weeks, you know something's up. Your mother's not home. There's a question is, where is she? What's she doing?
We would say things like, she got lost, we'll get her, we'll find her.
To make matters worse, Austin and Zachary were now separated, staying with their fathers and only seeing each other on weekends.
We'd lived together our whole lives. That was obviously different, waking up every day with, 1, your mom's not there, but 2, now your brother isn't.
We were suffering. And every day, our family was doing something to find her. We were looking for her. We were a well-oiled machine.
Jennifer suspected Sean Doyle had something to do with her sister's disappearance. So, weeks after Lorie vanished, she headed to Hudson Falls and held a demonstration, hoping someone there would know something about Doyle that could help investigators.
We had posters, we had signs, we had Sean's name up on signs. If anybody will speak to us.
Dorothy Tucker says when she heard Lorie's family was in town, she immediately called Doyle.
I was like, Sean, what's going on? Did you do something? I didn't do anything to her. She's probably off on a beach somewhere with some guy.
But you believed Sean at the time.
Oh, definitely.
Later that day, when Dorothy passed Lorie's family rallying on the streets, she says she did something she has come to deeply regret.
Like an idiot, I yelled out the window, telling them to go home. Sean didn't do anything, and they needed to leave.
As months passed with no sign of Lorie, the family's hopes began to dwindle.
I made a promise to find a resolution to this for them and give them the closure and answers that they needed. It was disheartening because every night I'd call them and give them an update, regardless of whether there was positive or negative information.
And then on July 24th, 2005, 3 months after Lorie went missing,
We had a report that a fisherman had been going by in this area here.
Captain Tony LeClaire is with the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
He saw what he thought to be a toolbox that goes in the back of a pickup truck floating. Thought it may be useful for him, so he grabbed onto it, towed it with his boat about 1.5 miles, and then they dragged it out of the water there.
The box was locked and emitting a foul odor, so police were called. And when they broke open the lock, authorities discovered a body inside.
And there was contents, pillows, bedding, purse, but right on top was Lorie's ID.
Also in the box was a photo of Lorie's 2 sons.
She was handcuffed behind her back. There was duct tape around the handcuffs. Her feet were bound together and duct taped. Her face from chin to forehead had duct tape. And then once that duct tape was removed, there was a bandana tied in her mouth.
The medical examiner would rule that Lorie died of asphyxiation.
I couldn't wrap my head around what they were saying. What do you mean she was found in a toolbox in the water? I couldn't accept it.
Detective Irwin says that's when Sean Doyle went from a person of interest to a suspect in the case.
Everything started to come together real quickly. We got a search warrant within hours to go to his residence.
During their search, police found sand tubes in his garage that matched the sand tubes inside the toolbox used to weigh it down.
We were able to track down in the home similar handcuffs, bandanas, duct tape, other means he used that matched what was used on Lorie.
Remember the key investigators had discovered in Sean Doyle's truck? It matched the lock of the toolbox, tying Doyle directly to the crime. When investigators checked the bridge near the canal where the toolbox was found, they discovered scratches on the bridge railing that matched scratches found on the bottom of the toolbox.
Just tell me about what investigators think happened. What was the theory?
The theory is that he came here with his pickup truck, came to the bridge somewhere in the center of the canal, and took the toolbox and basically just pushed it over the edge. And as he did, it scraped across.
Just 1 day after the discovery of Lorie's body in the toolbox, investigators arrested Sean Doyle.
What was that moment like for you?
Overwhelming.
Jennifer says it was time to break the news to Lorie's 2 young sons. Zachary remembers the moment, even though he was only 5 years old.
I felt it as soon as I walked into the room. And I think my dad was the one that said that she's not coming home. And I just kind of fell into him and just didn't know how to react.
I watched a little boy break. He said not a word.
Then it was time to tell 9-year-old Austin.
You know, I let out kind of like a shriek and kind of just collapsed in my dad. And I can still kind of feel it.
And he wailed. It wasn't a cry, it was a pained, guttural wail. I'll always have that sound in my head.
Jennifer says she couldn't truly mourn her sister because she had to prepare for Doyle's upcoming trial.
I was gonna make sure that he got what he deserved.
In late summer of 2005, Cece Opanowski received a phone call from her father. Her ex-boyfriend, Sean Doyle, had been arrested for murder.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe it. You don't want it to be true, and it's terrible.
When Cece learned the victim was 33-year-old Lorie Leonard, a single mom of 2 young boys, she said she was overwhelmed with extreme guilt.
That was a breaking point for me. I felt for her whole entire family and her 2 young children.
Cece says she was haunted by the choice she made as a traumatized and scared teenager.
And all I can think about is, if I could go back, I would have done it differently. I would have pressed my charges much further.
So just weeks later, when investigators reached out to Cece and asked if she would testify at Doyle's trial, she was determined to help.
I need to make sure that he is put away for murdering Lorie. At this point now, I'm angry. I'm not fearful.
But Cece was not Doyle's only ex-girlfriend who investigators hoped would testify against him. 5 years after Doyle attacked Cece, he allegedly tried to kill 23-year-old Sarah Vollmer.
When the investigators came a couple months ago and got me out of my work,
48 Hours reached out to Vollmer and received no response. But she did speak with the CBS affiliate in Albany about the attack in 2005.
He had tied me up with shoelaces and put the duct tape back over my mouth and then just began strangling me until I passed out, and then my mother walked in on it.
Doyle was charged with unlawful imprisonment in the 2nd degree and assault in the 3rd degree. But again, a deal was made. Doyle pleaded guilty only to the charge of unlawful imprisonment. A judge sentenced him to 3 years probation. On January 23, 2006, Sean Doyle's trial began. It was a day that Lorie's sister, Jennifer, had waited for.
I was going to be her advocate. I was going to speak for her. I was going to speak for the boys.
When Doyle entered the courtroom, Jennifer says she was caught off guard because his appearance had changed.
What do you look like?
Choir boy. He'd grown his hair. He had a sweater on.
Kevin Courtright, now retired, had only been district attorney for less than a month. He says key to his case was making sure Doyle's other victims, Cece and Sarah, would be allowed to testify. Oftentimes, judges do not allow a defendant's prior bad acts to be brought into trial.
Why were the women so crucial?
It shows what he's capable of. He'd done it almost exactly the same in the past. It's his modus operandi. It's strong proof.
Despite the defense's objections, the judge ruled that Cece and Sarah could testify. But first, DA Courtright presented the jury with all the pieces of physical evidence that pointed to Sean Doyle, like the items they found in Doyle's garage and home, the sandbags and handcuffs.
And what about that bandana?
He wore a bandana 24 hours a day. He had bandanas in his bedroom. He had bandanas in his truck. The bandana in Lorie's mouth was the one I believe he was wearing that day.
And then there was that toolbox. Courtright called to the stand a clerk from a local AutoZone store who says she sold Doyle the toolbox just 1 week before Lorie disappeared.
She identified him perfectly. She even identified his shirt he was wearing.
And the most important piece of evidence, that key found in his glove compartment that tied Doyle directly to the box.
That was as strong as evidence as you could get.
Retired journalist Don Lehman covered the trial for the Post-Star newspaper.
The key to the toolbox was, there was no way around that.
Then Courtright called Dorothy Tucker, Sean's once close friend, to the stand. He says she was a major witness because she provided information as to how they believe Doyle transported Lorie's body from Tenango 3 hours over to Hudson Falls after he murdered her.
He just kept calling me.
Dorothy told the jury that the day that Lorie disappeared, Doyle stopped by her house. In the back of his truck, she says, was a very large cardboard box.
I said, Sean, what do you got there? He said, "Oh, just garbage junk I had at Lorie's." He says, "I'm gonna take it to the dump."
DA Courtright believes Lorie's body was in the box and that at some point Doyle transferred her body to the toolbox. Dorothy testified just days after his first visit, Doyle showed up at her house again, and the cardboard box had been replaced by a large toolbox.
I walk out and I said, "Hey, Sean, what do you need a toolbox for? You don't have any tools to put in it." And he laughed and, yeah, you know. So then he started saying about a friend, he was going to meet him. They were going to go fishing.
Dorothy said Doyle told her he was going to fish by the Champlain Lock Canal area, a place he knew well and frequented often. Doyle had even taken Cece there many times when they dated.
Lorie was in the box that day, and he was taking her to dump her in the canal, where she was later found.
District Attorney Courtwright called Cece Opanowski as his last witness.
He always put the best for the last.
I was very, very nervous.
Cece told the jury about the attack and the long-lasting mental anguish Sean Doyle caused her.
What did you want Sean Doyle to see?
That I wasn't afraid, that you're not my scary anything anymore.
When it was the defense's turn, Lehman says they tried to poke holes in the prosecution's case.
There just was not a lot of holes to poke.
We reached out to Sean Doyle and members of Doyle's family, but they declined to be interviewed. After 3 long days of testimony, the case went to the jury. Lorie Leonard's family members held their breath.
I felt like I hadn't exhaled in months. And that's what I needed. I needed to exhale.
Despite all the evidence against Sean Doyle, retired journalist Don Lehman says no one knew which way the jury would rule.
But there have been times that we've seen many cases where the jury does things that just kind of defy the evidence.
On January 26, 2006, after just 2.5 hours of deliberations, the jury came back with a verdict: guilty of second-degree murder.
When the guilty verdict was read, Lorie Leonard's family burst into cheers and sobs, but Sean Doyle showed little reaction.
Guilty.
Mm-hmm.
What went through your mind when you heard that word?
Thank God.
Why does it still affect you?
Because bad things happen to good people.
I was relieved and happy that he was going to be punished for what he did.
For Cece, it was difficult to process the fact that a person she once loved was convicted of murder.
To me, it almost felt like there wasn't a man left inside of him, but more like a monster. For your crimes to become worse as you go, to almost perfect them, to think about them in that serial fashion.
1 month later, before Doyle was sentenced, a judge listened to testimony and read over victim impact statements from Lorie's friends and family.
Prison isn't even the right place for someone like him. It's not punishment enough.
It's a good picture. That's a good one.
Austin and Zachary, Lorie's sons, were too young to attend trial, but both wrote letters to the judge.
She let me sleep with her when I was scared, and when I see something scary and hear something scary. We used to sing songs we liked the most together.
I think my mom was the greatest mom in the world. My mom, my brother, and I had really great times together. I'm also sad because I'll never see my mom anymore, now because of what happened.
Sean Doyle was sentenced to the maximum, 25 years to life with the possibility of parole.
Was that enough?
I didn't think so.
You don't want him getting out?
No. There's no forgiveness. No way, man. No, none.
He's a danger to society. And I hope he never gets out.
Dorothy Tucker, who initially stood by Doyle, says she feels betrayed by him.
He lied. Straight to my face. And here is someone that I trusted, thought I knew, never saw that side of him,
Dorothy hopes Lorie's family will forgive her for how she previously treated them when they came to rally against Doyle in Hudson Falls.
I wanted to tell them how sorry I was, and I still am. That was totally uncalled for, and it was unacceptable behavior on my part.
Don Lehman, who has covered many domestic violence cases in his almost 30 years as a reporter, says there are important lessons that can be learned from Cece and Sarah's attacks and Lorie's murder.
Every case of domestic violence is a potential homicide. They all have to be taken seriously. They all have to be handled in a way to protect these victims. You know, as a young woman with 2 young kids, it's just mind-boggling that these kids lost their mom to a guy like this.
Cece, who bravely came forward to tell her story, hopes that others can learn from her.
Be vigilant. Look at what's happening in front of you and make sure someone knows. Don't keep it quiet. Pay attention. And when you have that feeling, that one that doesn't go away, you know, the one that you try to push down, that's the one you should listen to the most.
She says she is ready to let go of the guilt she has felt for what happened to Lorie.
I've waited so long, and I've had to live with it for all of these years.
It's not her fault. It's the system that failed. She did what she had to do. I don't blame her. I feel sad that she's felt guilt all this time.
How do you want your sister to be remembered?
Lorie Ann. She, so fun, so funny, so loving.
For Jennifer, she longs for the life she always thought she would have with Lorie.
We were supposed to be living in the same place and going out and raising our kids and having parties, and that's what it was supposed to be. That's what we were supposed to have. And I'm it. Just me and the kids trying to get along without her.
What do you miss the most about Lorie?
In moments where I'm really sad, where I'm like, I just need her to hold me. And she hasn't been able to do that in 20 years.
"48 hours to miss it would be a crime."
Were you at all prepared for what happened in this case?
My name is Dana Chandler. I have been accused of double homicide, and I am innocent.
Is it hard to believe you're sitting here again to talk about this?
Yeah, it really is. I didn't think 20 years later that this is what would be happening in this situation. July 7th of 2002, my dad and his fiancée, Karen, were shot and killed in their beds. I was 17 and my brother was 15, and there was just shock. The only person that hated them was my mom.
Dana.
What should people understand about the fact that you, Dana Chandler's daughter, thinks Dana Chandler killed your father?
I do have a mind of my own, and I'm not biased in this situation. I don't want it to be her. I want the truth to come out, and I want true justice for my dad and Karen.
Mike and Karen were together for the weekend alone. They did everything. They loved each other.
They drove up to a casino, spent a few hours there, and then arrived back home in the early morning hours. They were found Sunday afternoon, July 7th.
The killer made it downstairs, shot Karen Harkness multiple times, shot Mike Cisco multiple times.
It's unnerving to think that somebody could sneak into a house and do this and leave quietly and nobody knows about it till the next day. Whoever it was that did this hated these people. They wanted them dead and they wanted to make sure they were dead.
It could be the justice two families have long been waiting for, the arrest of Dana Chandler in the 2002 killings of Karen Harkness and Michael Cisco.
You have a trial where she's found guilty.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the crime of murder.
And then the Kansas Supreme Court comes and says, this is prosecutorial misconduct, and it's so bad that we're going to go ahead and overturn her conviction. You have a new trial.
The jury is unable to reach a unanimous verdict.
And now they've had a hung jury, and they're gonna try her again. That just is almost unheard of.
For the third time, Dana Chandler is back on trial with opening statements today as Chandler will represent herself in this case.
I knew it was different. I just didn't know what was going to happen. I could never have predicted it.
When officers talked to friends, family, co-workers, they all said the same thing. You guys should look at Dana Chandler.
The truth is that she murdered them.
I did not kill Mike Cisco. I did not kill Karen Harkness. I am an innocent woman.
Dana Chandler has spent decades maintaining her innocence against allegations she was responsible for the 2002 murders of her ex-husband Mike Cisco and his girlfriend Karen Harkness.
My liberty, my freedom is hanging in the balance.
In 2025, Chandler took on her own defense, representing herself in the third trial the state brought against her for the murders.
I wanted to understand what happened and why and actually know the truth of what happened.
Haley Seal is Dana Chandler and Mike Cisco's daughter. She and other family members of Mike and Karen have spent decades grieving, searching for answers and for justice.
Hi, Dana. Harold Dow, CBS News.
48 Hours first started covering the murders in 2008 and spoke with individuals involved several times over the years.
It's hard to swallow, and it's hard to believe. It's insane.
For Haley, it all started on July 7, 2002. She learned her father and Karen had been killed in Karen's Topeka, Kansas home.
I immediately just saw a bunch of tape around the house and police, and my grandma was sitting in there, and she just told me that they had been shot.
The night before the murders, Mike and Karen enjoyed an evening at a casino about an hour outside of Topeka. Surveillance footage shows them leaving about 1:30 a.m. They then stopped to get coffee. The last time video captured Karen alive.
They were extremely happy. You could just see that.
Karen's father, Harold Warswick.
Everything they did was for each other.
The day after Mike and Karen's night out, a family get-together had been planned at Karen's house. Relatives thought the couple might be announcing they were engaged.
And I rang the doorbell and knocked on the glass and couldn't raise anybody. I thought, this is strange.
Karen's father, who has since died, recalled that he entered Karen's home that afternoon through an open sliding door. Didn't see any sign of her or Mike, so he headed downstairs to the bedroom.
Just I got to the foot of the stairs, I could see Karen. And I said, oh Christ. I knew she was dead. Then I found Mike on the outside of the bed.
Harold would then call 911.
I've just located my daughter, and she's downstairs and she's dead.
I got a radio call just after 2 o'clock on July 7, 2002.
Richard Voley, now retired, was the Topeka Police Department's lead detective on the case.
There was a report of 2 dead bodies in a basement.
5 bullets had struck 53-year-old Karen, including in her back and buttocks. Mike, 47, suffered between 5 and 7 gunshot wounds. The couple had been in bed. The rest of the house appears undisturbed. Investigators found more than $1,000 in cash, a Rolex watch, and other jewelry left behind. Robbery was quickly ruled out. To understand who might want Karen and Mike dead, police turned to their families for information.
What we're left with is an emotional killing. It's an emotional execution.
Mike, a salesperson for a welding company, and Karen, who worked in the hospitality industry, were both previously married and now divorced. The well-liked couple had been dating about 4 years.
It was a surprise to everybody that this would happen to somebody like her.
Karen's children, Chad and Aaron, were in their 20s at the time of the murders.
My mom was an amazing woman. She didn't have enemies. And I remember telling her on several occasions that if I could be half the mom that she was to me, that I would be the best mom in the world.
Mike had custody of his 2 children, Haley, then 17, and Dustin, 15.
My dad was really in my life growing up. He was really my hero.
Haley's relationship with her dad was more complicated.
I wasn't happy with my dad. I wasn't happy with my mom. I wasn't happy at my school.
By Haley's own admission, she was a difficult teenager.
My dad gave me an ultimatum. Either you follow my rules or you move out.
Choosing to live with her then boyfriend, Chris.
I moved in with Chris, and then my dad was killed.
That defiance made Haley and Chris of interest to police. They were polygraphed and questioned.
I'm just curious, is everything all right with your dad and everything?
Yeah. We weren't really getting along for a little while.
Authorities said their alibis checked out, as did the alibis of Karen's daughter, Erin, and her husband, Jeff Sutton. Karen's son, Chad, was also questioned.
I was hooked up to a polygraph machine and asked if I had murdered my mother or in any way participated in the murder of my mother.
Police concluded none of them were involved, but family members thought they knew who was responsible. Mike's ex-wife, Dana Chandler.
She never fit in.
Kathy Boots, Mike's sister, watched Dana and Mike's relationship deteriorate. After 15 years of marriage, the couple went through a bitter divorce, finalized in 1998. Mike's relatives say Dana had a drinking problem, and she sporadically stalked Mike during and after the divorce, with frequent calls and bizarre visits.
The kids were upstairs in their room, and we heard a noise, and there she was in the middle of the night, jumping on a trampoline in the backyard of Mike's home.
I think she became obsessed with the fact that Mike was moving on with his life.
Mark Boots, Mike's brother-in-law.
And then when Karen entered the picture, that's when things really started, I think, escalating.
Mike kept track of some of the incidents from 1998 in a day planner, writing, July 28th, Dana stalking neighborhood at 8:30. Caught her. She left. November 12th, Dana came in house while I was at Karen's from 7 to 11. Went through stuff.
She was willing to travel great distances to show up back in his life.
According to the Boots, the last time Dana showed up at Mike's home was in the spring of 2002, several months before the murders. Kathy said Mike told her Dana went there to talk about moving back in.
She said, the kids are getting older, they're having different issues with themselves now, they need both parents. I think I should move back in and we should parent together.
All this harassment and stalking had come to the point that Mike told me that he and Karen now feared for their lives.
Mark says Mike made that clear to him on a fishing trip 9 days before the murders.
He turned to me and said, Mark, you're going to wake up and find me dead, and I want you to know who did it. Dana Chandler.
But Dana Chandler lived 8 hours away in Denver, and there was no sign that she had been in Karen's house in Topeka the night of the murders.
The victims were doing absolutely nothing and may not have seen it coming at all.
Investigators were trying to determine who would gun down Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness as they lay in bed. Detective Richard Foley called Mike's ex-wife, Dana Chandler, to inform her of Mike's murder.
Your husband was found shot to death today, this afternoon. Your ex-husband, I'm sorry. Can you tell me when the last time was that you talked to him?
Dana, Foley says, did not ask many questions and did not seem concerned. She would later say she was very upset on that call. But only Foley's side of their conversation was recorded due to a technical error, he said, on his part. The next evening, Chandler called the Topeka Police Department, leaving a message on a different officer's voicemail.
Hi, my name is Dana Chandler, and I got a very disturbing phone call last night. Someone had said that my ex-husband had been killed, and I'm just calling to see if that's true or not.
Dana would later explain her call was simply seeking confirmation. Given the personal nature of the murders, no signs of a burglary, and those stories about a messy divorce and stalking, Dana Chandler became the main suspect. Detective Foley decided to talk with Chandler in person, recording this audio 4 days after the murders.
So tell me about what happened on the 6th.
I got up and I had my morning coffee.
But again, there was an issue with the recording. In most of the rest of the conversation, Dana is difficult to hear. Detective Foley recounted what he said she told him.
She said she'd been at home Saturday morning, that's July 6th, and then made a couple of errand stops.
Dana said she bought cigarettes, snacks, and a car cigarette lighter at several stores around Denver, and then got gas. But Foley says she failed to mention one purchase he saw on a credit card receipt.
She'd bought 2 5-gallon gas cans as well.
Foley wondered why she didn't tell him, and why she would even need gas cans unless she had been planning a trip, perhaps to Kansas, and didn't want to stop for gas along the way. According to Foley, Dana had also said after running those errands, she went home to her Denver apartment.
Didn't have any visitors, no contact with anybody, and the next day got up and went for a drive in the mountains at 10 o'clock in the morning.
But Foley couldn't verify that Dana was in her apartment the night of the murders, nor that she took a drive in the mountains the next day. Foley said the area Dana described driving through would have meant she'd have to pass Rocky Mountain National Park surveillance cameras. Those cameras were checked. Foley said there was no sign of her car.
The particular person that I had view that tape looked at every frame slowly. She was never there.
Investigators also reviewed Dana's cell phone records. They said that while she tended to use her cell phone frequently, she, oddly, had no activity around the time of the murders.
What we found was there was a 27-hour window where her phone wasn't used.
Still, there was no DNA, no fingerprints, or other forensic evidence to tie Dana to the killings. The gun used in the murders hadn't been found, though investigators learned the bullets were from an Israeli weapons manufacturer. And Dana would go on to say she didn't even own a gun. But family members remained convinced that Dana was responsible for the murders. They say they pushed to have a meeting with then DA Robert Hecht. Tim Sisko, Mike's brother.
I specifically went into this meeting wanting to know if he would pursue a circumstantial case, and the answer was, without that murder weapon, we don't have enough hard evidence to move this forward.
Mike's and Karen's families grew increasingly frustrated and decided to take action, looking for more information about Dana's possible involvement in the murders.
I put her picture up everywhere. Have you seen this person?
Several months after the murders, having more questions than answers, Mike's sister Kathy said she and their mom Carol went searching for clues, even lifting up manhole covers and looking in rest stop bathrooms for the gun used in the murders.
We thought, maybe she threw the gun somewhere. So I would stand on a toilet and try and push a tile up.
They found nothing. But Haley, Dana and Mike's daughter, was also working the case.
I felt the need to do something. I didn't want to just sit back with my hands tied and helpless.
In 2005, 3 years after the murders, Haley began secretly recording conversations with her mother, trying to learn what happened to her dad and Karen.
I think that the only way I can really move on with a relationship with you is if we can get it, if you can just tell me yourself that you did it.
Number one, I didn't do it, and number two, I don't know what happened, Haley.
One thing Haley asked about was why her mother had no cell phone activity for 27 hours around the time of the murders.
Why did it have no calls and wasn't home the whole time? You knew it could be traced. I was in the mountains, I didn't have a signal.
Dana insisted she had nothing to do with the murders, but did say she had violent thoughts about Mike.
I said I could kill him. Ever think about killing him? No, but I did. But honestly, I go over it with you.
The official investigation, though, seemed stalled. So authorities asked Vernon Geberth, a homicide and forensic consultant and former New York City Police Department detective, to review case files. In 2007, nearly 5 years after the murders, he issued a report concluding Dana Chandler is the one and only person who had the motive, means, and opportunity to commit these murders. It was Geberth who brought the case to the attention of 48 Hours. In 2009, 48 Hours aired its first report on the murders and tried to talk with Dana Chandler.
Did you know anything about the death of Michael and Karen?
I have no idea what happened to Michael and Karen.
48 Hours ended the episode asking viewers to contact police if they had any information. Again, the case seemed to be going nowhere.
Recon this morning.
But 2 years later, a new DA, Chad Taylor, decided he was willing to take a chance with the evidence they had. He chose to move the case forward and arrest Dana Chandler.
One team come up this way, one team come up here.
With our cameras rolling,
Laid eyes on her this morning.
law enforcement zeroed in on Dana Chandler in Oklahoma, where she was staying at the time. Taylor didn't just help plan the arrest, but went on it with a gun at the ready.
Get out of the car! Both hands out of the car!
And on July 24th, 2011, Dana Chandler was in custody, charged with the murders of Mike Sisko and Karen Harkness.
I hit a point where I didn't know if justice would ever be served.
For Haley, who was convinced her mother killed her father, Dana's arrest was nearly a decade in the making.
It was such a feeling that it was unbelievable.
She was determined to get justice as she prepared to face Dana in court.
I've made it this far. I can do anything.
All right.
In March 2012, Dana Chandler went on trial. Jackie Spradling, then Chief Deputy DA, began by referring to those conversations Haley had taped years earlier with her mother.
I could kill him. I thought about killing him. These are the words of this defendant about her ex-husband, Mike Cisco.
In her opening statement, Spradling suggested a possible motive for murder.
2 days before the homicides, the defendant called Mike. Mike at this time told the defendant in that 5-minute phone call that he and Karen were going to be married.
But there is no recording of that call.
It's easy to make allegations. It's difficult to prove those allegations.
And in his opening, defense attorney Mark Bennett argued the case against Dana Chandler was all speculation.
That there is no evidence that places Dana Chandler in or near the Harkness residence on July 6 or 7, 2002.
But to authorities, there was the question about exactly where Dana was during that time. Detective Voley says she told him she was home Saturday, the night of the murders, and then drove through the mountains the next day. But Dana's business acquaintance, Jeff Bailey, testified Dana told him something different, that she slept in her car in the mountains the Saturday night of the murders.
She told me that the story she was giving me was the truth, and the story that she'd given to the law enforcement was not the truth.
And prosecutors told the jury Dana did not use her cell phone for 27 hours the weekend of the murders. Remember, Haley accused her mother of trying to avoid being tracked. Voley found another instance when Dana didn't use her phone a month before the murders.
There were no calls registered. There were some calls came to the phone, but none were picked up.
And prosecutors say that's important because during that time, a month before the murders, was Dana's dry run for the killings. They called her friend Ann Carrender to the stand. Carrender says Dana told her she had driven to Topeka.
She had gone to Mike's house through the window. Nobody was home.
What else did she tell you?
That she had gone and sat outside Karen's house.
Spradling says Dana was obsessed with Mike and presented evidence that in the 6 months leading up to the murders, she called Mike and Karen more than 600 times. The defense argued Dana was calling to talk to her kids, but Haley remembered her mother's calls differently.
What was the thing that she talked to you the most about?
She talked about my dad a lot, and I really feel like she was really just obsessed with him.
An FBI analyst testified Dana often called late at night and frequently made repeated calls in a short time period, including a month before the murders.
On June 3rd, she made 17 calls in 18 minutes.
Both of Dana's children testified for the prosecution, saying that their mother also had a history of stalking their father.
She took me and my sister with her to go spy on my dad, and so we were in the car, and she told us, we're just going to be her little helpers.
She asked if I would go up to the house with her, and we did, and she was looking in all the windows, and she told me to look in the windows. And
did you?
I did.
Okay. What was it that she was looking at in there?
I think that she was thinking there was a lady in there with my dad.
Haley also testified about those recordings she made talking with her mother. During one of them, Dana, who attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, gave an explanation as to why she bought those gas cans.
I ran into a girl that had run out of gas at an AA meeting, and so I went and got gas for her. She asked me for money, and we don't give people money at AA.
Prosecutor Spradling told the jury that she believed Chandler used those 2 5-gallon gas cans to have enough gas so she would not have to stop and potentially be seen near the crime scene. But Chandler's attorney argued there was no proof she was ever in Topeka during the time of the murders.
Did you or any other members of the Topeka Police Department ever find an eyewitness that put the defendant Dana Chandler in Topeka, Kansas on either July 6 or July 7, 2002?
No.
The closest law enforcement was able to come was here, at a gas station in Wakini, Kansas, nearly halfway between Denver and Topeka. Clerk Patty Williams wasn't sure, but she thought she might have seen Dana the night of the murders.
Patty was shown a picture of the defendant. Patty indicated that she was 70% sure that that was the woman who had been there.
But by the time Chandler went on trial, Patty Williams had died. A different worker from the gas station testified about seeing a black car that looked similar to the one Chandler drove that day. But she said it might have had license plates from Virginia. When it was the defense's turn, Bennett pointed out there was no proof Dana was ever there.
Wasn't any receipt from Wakini, was there?
No.
And Bennett questioned whether Detective Voley investigated other suspects, like two men with criminal records who had stolen checks from Mike Sisko and cashed one after the murders.
That didn't make him a suspect?
No, because the check wasn't taken from Karen Harkness's house where the murders occurred. The check was actually taken from Mike Sisko's house where the murders did not occur.
And one of the men was in jail when the murders occurred. In closing arguments, Bennett reiterated there was no forensic evidence linking Chandler to the crime.
All this time they've been trying to put her in Kansas when this happened. And for 9.5 years, they've come up dry.
Spradling reminded the jury of Dana's stalking behavior and tried to make sure they knew just how scared Mike was of Dana. She said Mike had gotten a protection from abuse order against Dana.
So he got a court order saying she has to stay away. The protection from abuse order did not stop the defendant, though.
After 2 weeks of testimony, it took the jury 83 minutes to reach a verdict.
Defendant would please stand.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree as charged in count 1.
I feel better in the sense that my dad's killer is paying for their actions. I don't feel better that my mom is capable of killing my dad.
When it was time for sentencing, Haley asked that her mom receive the maximum sentence.
We each have a deep scar in our souls from what this monster has done.
But Chandler would also get a chance to speak.
But most importantly, I deny that I murdered Mike or Karen. I am innocent. I did not murder Mike or Karen.
Dana Chandler was sentenced to life in prison. But soon that verdict would be called into question.
A lot of my mind has been focused on her getting away with killing my dad and just drags me down.
For years, Haley Seal's thoughts were consumed with proving her mother killed her father, Mike Sisko, and Karen Harkness. With Dana Chandler in prison, Haley was relieved she could concentrate on other things. But her relief was tinged with pain.
I want to focus on my future and what I want to do with my life. I want to be everything my mom wasn't.
But Haley's focus would turn again to the case. Dana Chandler almost immediately began filing motions as she worked to appeal her conviction. She and her attorney cited, among other things, the actions of prosecutor Jackie Spradling. In particular, statements Spradling made at trial about that protection from abuse order.
Mike got a protection from abuse, a court order. He applied and said, "Hey, judge, please order this woman to stay away from me." And the judge agreed.
And that is just a blatant misstatement.
Stacy Schlimmer, one of Chandler's appeal attorneys, was never able to find a protection from abuse order.
I went through the whole case. I went and looked for every possible order I could find, and there wasn't one that she was referring to.
In 2018, Schlimmer argued that Jackie Spradling's actions constituted prosecutorial misconduct.
I think that Ms. Chandler never had an opportunity at a fair trial from the get-go.
Schlimmer contended the case against Dana Chandler should be thrown out. The court agreed.
The Kansas Supreme Court held that it's so bad that we're going to go ahead and overturn her conviction.
Other issues about statements Spradling made at trial also came up, including describing a route Dana took between Kansas and Denver when there was no evidence that she drove that way.
She drove directly up to Nebraska, and after she gets on Nebraska, she turns around and goes home.
They just kind of hypothesized, well, she must have went up and went over from Nebraska. There was no evidence of that at all.
Schlimmer also contended the state did not have enough evidence to prove Dana Chandler's guilt.
We argued insufficiency of evidence as an issue for appeal.
Meaning you don't think prosecutors had enough to make a legitimate case?
Jurors didn't have enough evidence before them if you took out all the evidence that should have never been presented or told to them incorrectly.
The Kansas Supreme Court described Jackie Spradling's actions as, quote, intolerable acts of deception, and she was disbarred. 48 Hours reached out to Spradling, but did not receive a response.
When a case gets reversed, like a case like this, we essentially have an innocent woman who's been convicted of crime because of the prosecutor, or we have a family that has now a reverse conviction that has to go through the system again.
Either way, there's an injustice.
Right. So that conduct is going to affect someone.
The court did decide, though, there was sufficient evidence to retry Dana Chandler, if the district attorney chose to.
When I found out that this Kansas Supreme Court overturned the verdict, it was very shocking. What does this mean? Will the DA's office retry her?
Were you angry with the prosecutor who was cited for misconduct?
No, I've never been angry with her. I think it was an innocent mistake.
Had Jackie not made those comments, we wouldn't be sitting here today. This would be over.
Chad Harkness, Karen's son, takes a different view of Jackie Spradling's actions.
Now, all these years later, we're still having to, live through this again, and it's not right, it's not fair.
The decision whether to retry Dana Chandler was now in the hands of Shawnee County's new DA, Mike Kagay.
We analyzed every aspect of the case, and ultimately we came to the conclusion that we believed justice demanded that we move forward and we pursue another trial.
Pursuing that would take years. Dana Chandler remained incarcerated. She and her defense lawyers argued she should be set free and fought against having another trial.
What were those years like?
Unbelievable.
For Haley, the delays seemed endless. Dana and her lawyers filed nearly 400 motions, including ones requesting a change of judge, to retain an investigator, for her bond to be reduced, and to disqualify the Shawnee County District Attorney's Office. And through it all, she fired several of her lawyers.
She went through 7 lawyers in that time, and between representing herself.
There were also dozens of hearings, including one where Haley was called to testify, and Dana did the questioning.
She took me on the stand for at least 45 minutes, and she directly questioned me.
What was that like?
It was the most awful thing I've ever I mean, the suspect in the killing of my dad is now having the power to question me on the stand and talk to me.
Not just the suspect in the killing of your dad, your own mother.
Yeah. I mean, it was awful.
But Haley was willing to take whatever steps necessary to ensure her mother would stand trial again for the murders.
If she could bring out something to prove where she was, to say she didn't do it, prove she didn't do it, that's not just for me. That's for her and her own freedom. But she can't, and she hasn't.
Two innocent people were murdered in our community. That demands justice.
Although Dana Chandler's conviction had been overturned, prosecutors were determined to retry her for the murders of Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness. By 2021, the organization Miracle of Innocence got involved, advocating for Dana.
Dana Chandler was someone who we believed in her innocence. When we looked at the case, the facts was just nothing connected this lady to the crime.
Darrell Burton is the co-founder of Miracle of Innocence. He's someone who was wrongfully imprisoned and had his murder conviction reversed. He says before sending someone to prison, the case needs to be more convincing than the one made against Dana Chandler.
There's no evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, no confession, no weapon, no witnesses, nothing. When it comes to, these kinds of crimes of murder, you just got to have more than that.
Dana and her attorneys also raised other issues as they tried to get the case dismissed. Some allegations related to the 2009 48 Hours broadcast. Chandler falsely accused law enforcement of forming a partnership with 48 Hours to film an episode aimed at convincing the public that Ms. Chandler murdered Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness. What do you make of the idea that if 48 Hours had not reported, starting in 2009, on this case, that Dana Chandler would never have been arrested or tried?
I don't think it was 48 hours. 2009 is a lot different than when they arrested her. They arrested her 3 years later. I think the family was what kept it going. They believed that Miss Chandler did this. It was the new prosecutor, and it was the family probably saying, hey, we need justice done in this.
But Stacy Schlimmer, Dana's former appeal attorney, does take issue with the handling of the 2011 arrest and the show of force. You've seen Dana Chandler's arrest many times.
Right.
And it bothers you.
It bothers me a lot.
48 Hours, as well as the Topeka Capital Journal, were given advance notice of the arrest by the office of then DA, Chad Taylor. Are you bothered by law enforcement, or are you bothered by the fact that there were cameras there?
I'm bothered by the prosecutor. I'm bothered by the district attorney showing up at an arrest and having that arrest filmed.
So they wanted video of law enforcement with their guns out?
I think they wanted then the public to see that. That to me it seemed like such a production for a case. That prosecutor should never have done that.
Ultimately, the various arguments Dana Chandler's team made to dismiss the case were unsuccessful. Chandler's new trial was scheduled for the summer of 2022. Before the trial began, 48 Hours again tried to speak with Dana Chandler. She said she would only agree to an interview if CBS paid her $1 million bond. We declined.
Never thought we'd be sitting here again and getting ready to start a retrial on this. It's just mind-blowing.
Chad Harkness, Karen's son, was relieved the DA's office decided to retry Dana Chandler, but was concerned about going through this yet another time.
Just us kids having to relive this again, and it makes me sick.
Haley, too, was not looking forward to another trial, but said testifying again could give her some control of the situation.
If I can realize my power, and it gives me courage to go forward because I know the truth. The truth is that she murdered them.
The passage of time has left Haley with so much loss. Loss she holds her mother responsible for. And as a mom herself, having married her high school boyfriend, Chris, Haley's feelings are even more complicated. When you think of your mom, do you think mother? Or do you think Dana?
I think Dana. Yeah, she's Dana to me. Actually, mom is an ucky word to me, to the point where I don't even like my kids to call me mom. I don't like mom. Mom is a very hurtful person.
No matter the name, Dana Chandler is someone Haley will have to face again in court, and someone who will eventually tell her side of the story.
Start by stating my name. My name is Dana Chandler. I, as everyone knows, have been accused of double homicide, and I am innocent.
"48 hours to miss it would be a crime."
Were you at all prepared for what happened in this case?
They were found Sunday afternoon, July 7th.
My dad and his fiancée, Karen, were shot and killed in their beds. I was 17 and my brother was 15, and there was just shock.
The killer made it downstairs, shot Karen Harkness multiple times, shot Mike Cisco multiple times. Whoever it was that did this hated these people.
The only person that hated them was my mom.
Dana.
What should people understand about the fact that you, Dana Chandler's daughter, thinks Dana Chandler killed your father?
I do have a mind of my own, and I'm not biased in this situation. I don't want it to be her. I want the truth to come out.
I wanted to help the police, so I started to record my conversations with her.
I think that the only way I can really move on with a relationship with you is if we can get it, if you can just tell me yourself that you did it.
Number one, I didn't do it, and number two, I don't know what happened, Haley.
Did you know anything about the death of Michael and Karen?
I have no idea what happened to Michael and Karen.
I hit a point where I didn't know if justice would ever be served. I needed justice for my dad and for Karen.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
I feel better in the sense that my dad's killer is paying for their actions. I don't feel better that my mom is capable of killing my dad.
And then the Kansas Supreme Court comes and says, this is prosecutorial misconduct. We're going to go ahead and overturn her conviction. You have a new trial.
My liberty, my freedom is hanging in the balance.
If she could bring out something to prove she didn't do it, that's for her and her own freedom, but she can't, and she hasn't.
I did not kill Mike Cisco.
She would not hesitate to get revenge on me.
I did not kill Karen Harkness.
I know the truth.
I am an innocent woman.
The truth is that she murdered them. She scares me.
Your mom scares you.
I wanted to understand what happened and why, and actually know the truth of what happened.
For 2 decades, Haley Seal has been waiting for justice in the murders of her father, Mike Cisco, and his girlfriend, Karen Harkness.
This hasn't been resolved.
In 2002, multiple bullets struck 53-year-old Karen and 47-year-old Mike as they lay in bed in Karen's Kansas home. Authorities believed it was a crime of passion, as the rest of the house seemed undisturbed, with money and jewelry left behind. And Haley believed it was her mother, Dana Chandler, who was responsible.
The truth is that she was in Karen's house on July 7th in the middle of the night with a gun, and she shot them both multiple times. And she murdered them. I hate that that's the truth, but it is the truth.
I've never seen a case like this. Even
Daryl Burton is co-founder of Miracle of Innocence, an organization that paid for Dana Chandler's lawyers and supports individuals it believes are wrongfully convicted.
No DNA, no fingerprints, no confession, no weapon. It just doesn't add up.
In the summer of 2022, Dana Chandler was on trial for the second time for the murders of Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness. As in her first trial, the defense focused on all that was lacking in the case against Chandler.
There is no evidence that she was in the Harkness residence, no evidence she was in Topeka, there's no evidence she was in the state of Kansas.
Defense attorney Tom Bath insisted Dana Chandler was in Colorado at the time of the murders, more than 500 miles away, and faulted investigators for zeroing in on her.
Everything they looked at, everything they examined, excluded Dana.
The lack of physical evidence was acknowledged by Shawnee County Deputy District Attorney Charles Kidd.
Science is not going to solve this case. This case is not based on DNA.
Instead, the state focused on evidence such as Dana's hatred of her ex-husband and his girlfriend.
This case is based on jealousy, rage, and obsession.
Prosecutors presented evidence they say showed that obsession, including records of more than 600 phone calls Dana made to Karen and Mike in the 6 months before the murders. And they introduced witnesses who said Mike and Karen told them some of those calls were menacing. Karen's coworker, Kim Warrender.
And she said she had been up all night receiving phone calls from Dana.
She told you she was afraid?
Very afraid.
Erin Sutton also testified that her mother, Karen Harkness, was scared of Dana. She spoke about messages she said she heard that Dana left on her mother's phone.
She would call my mom horrible names.
And like what kind of names would she call her?
She would call her a whore.
In addition to testimony about calls Dana Chandler made, there was also attention paid to when there was no call activity on her phone, specifically during 27 hours the weekend of the murders. Authorities believe Dana Chandler's phone was turned off so it could not be traced as she traveled to Kansas. But the defense suggested it could have just been spotty cell phone service in Colorado. Prosecutors told the jury about a purchase Dana made the day before the murders, but failed to mention to investigators. Kit asked Richard Voley, the lead detective on the case, about the purchase.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is an AutoZone receipt. It shows the first two purchases were $5 gas cans.
Authorities wondered why Dana didn't tell them about the gas cans, and why she would need gas cans unless she was planning a trip, perhaps to Kansas, and did not want to stop for gas along the way. And there was the issue of Dana Chandler's alibi. According to Detective Voley, a changing, unconfirmable one. One witness testified that Dana said she was in the mountains in Colorado at the time of the murders. But Detective Voley testified Chandler told him she was at home in her Denver apartment.
She said she'd stayed at her house, had no guests or phone calls, and that she turned in about 9 o'clock.
A friend of Dana's testified about something authorities thought might have been a dry run for the murders. She said about a month before the killings, Dana called and told her about a trip she made to Mike's home.
She told me that she knew nobody was in the house and that she went into Mike's home through the window. After that, she did go to his girlfriend's house and sat outside her house waiting for them to come home, but they didn't show up.
Did she tell you what she did when she got into Mike's house?
She wanted to see what it looked like on the inside.
But Dana's attorney questioned the reliability of her testimony, pointing out she may have gotten some dates wrong regarding calls with Dana.
It must not have been a Monday.
But 20 years ago, you said it was a Monday, right?
Sure.
Testimony about Chandler's behavior also came from Kathy Boots, Mike's sister. She described an incident several years before the murders that she said she witnessed while staying at Mike's house.
We went to bed that night, and I woke up in the early morning hours to a noise out in the backyard, and we had left the back porch lights on. And I looked out through the blinds, and Dana was jumping on the trampoline out back.
And Mike's brother-in-law, Mark Boots, recounted a disturbing conversation he said he had with Mike 9 days before the murders.
Mike told me that the patterns of harassment had increased and that he feared for he and Karen's lives.
Mike and Dana's daughter, Haley, was going to be in the uncomfortable position of testifying against her mother.
And who is Dana Chandler to you?
She's my mom.
I was absolutely still nervous and scared. Being up there, it causes conflict.
As Haley Seal reflected back on testifying against her mother, Dana Chandler, she recalled the stress she was under. As a prosecution witness, Haley was asked to describe some of her mother's behavior. Behavior Haley said she found obsessive.
Was there a time where you were asked to spy on your dad?
Yeah.
Haley recounted an incident after her parents split up, when she said Dana drove her and her brother to Mike's home, and they all sat in the car to watch the house.
She said, "Come on, we need to watch your dad. You can be my little helpers." She had me go with her to the house after so long, and she wanted to look in the windows.
Did she look in the windows?
Yeah, we both looked in the windows, and she said, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And I said, "No, I didn't see anything."
It was episodes like that which led Haley early on to think her mother could be responsible for the murders.
I always suspected she had something to do with it because of the history of her harassment, stalking, hatred, talking bad about them to us all the time.
Haley testified about some of the ways her mother expressed that dislike of her father, like the demeaning ways Dana referred to him in emails and online chats, including ones where Dana referred to Mike as it, sent when Haley was 14 years old.
Did she call him manipulative and deceiving?
Yes.
And then calls him a rapist?
Yeah.
And just a couple of lines down, I hate his guts.
Yeah.
Are those things that your mother typed to you?
Yes.
Weekend. Nobody can say that you were in Colorado that weekend.
Also played in court were those conversations Haley secretly recorded with her mom as she tried to learn more about Dana's possible involvement in the murders.
In all the conversations you had with her over the days, weeks, months, even years after this happened, she never told you something that made you think, well, at least my mom didn't do it.
No, every time I talked to her, I felt more and more confident that she definitely had something to do with it.
And perhaps most telling to Haley was a conversation played in court where Dana said she had thought about killing Mike.
Ever think about killing him? No, but I did.
In one of those discussions, Haley asked her mother about why she bought those 2 gas cans, which authorities thought could have been used to help drive round trip from Denver to Topeka without stopping in Kansas for fuel. Dana, who'd been a problem drinker, explained she bought them for someone else, a woman she met at AA.
She asked me for money, and we don't give people money at AA. I said, I'll go buy you some gas.
The prosecutor asked Haley if she was able to learn anything more about that woman from Dana.
She wouldn't tell you who that person was?
No, she didn't.
But Dana's defense team argued those recorded conversations proved nothing about the murders. And regarding the 2 gas cans, it maintained that the 10 extra gallons the cans could hold would not have been enough for Dana to drive round trip from Denver to Topeka without still needing to stop for fuel. The defense accused authorities of tunnel vision, including not looking more thoroughly at other suspects. And her lawyer said Dana Chandler never owned a 9mm gun, the type of weapon used in the murders, which was never found. What was found were unusual bullets made in Israel.
Israel Military Industries, that's the manufacturer.
Dana's attorney questioned a firearm examiner who had worked with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation about those bullets.
Is that a bullet ammunition you typically see?
Actually, we had not seen that before, and so it was a little bit unusual to us.
The prosecution, though, explained there were places one could buy those bullets.
Could that ammo have been brought into Kansas and sold at a gun show?
Yes, sir.
Could have been exchanged by individuals?
Yes, sir.
There were other parts of the investigation that the defense argued supported its case. There was forensic work it said eliminated Dana Chandler. Unidentified fingerprints found at the house did not match Chandler. None of Dana's DNA was found at the murder scene, nor were any fibers found from her clothing or any of her hair.
I did not find any hairs that were consistent with the known samples coming from Miss Chandler.
In 20 years, the state had no evidence whatsoever that placed Dana Chandler in Karen Harkness's home, in the city of Topeka, or in the state of Kansas.
After 3 weeks of testimony, that lack of physical evidence would be the defense's theme in its closing argument.
Each and every time they tested something, it excluded Dana.
From the beginning, I told you this case is about obsession, jealousy, rage.
The state focused on Dana's behavior, her calls, emails, and her own family's testimony against her.
The defendant clearly hated Karen and Mike. Words from her own mouth and her own fingers typing those messages.
A lot of evidence about Dana's bad behavior. That's true. That's not evidence. They have not proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt.
On August 25th, 2022, the case went to the jury, and Haley was waiting for a verdict.
I've really tried to trust the process, as I knew I didn't have any control over it, so it was going to be what it was going to be.
But the wait to find out what the verdict would be was a long one.
When you retire to the jury room, you will first select one of your members as presiding juror. The person selected will preside over your
The case in the second trial of Dana Chandler for the murders of Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness went to the jury on August 25th, 2022. That day came and went, as did several more.
Members of the jury, would you like to recess for the day?
Yes, we would like.
After about 4 days, I started to get nervous and think, wow, this actually could not come back in a guilty verdict. And I started to think about that possibility. And so I prayed. And I just trusted that if she did get away with this, that life would have to go on, right?
Members of the gallery, I would ask that you just please refrain from any outbursts.
After 6 days of deliberating, Dana Chandler would learn her fate.
I understand that the jury is unable to reach a unanimous verdict at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The jury informed the judge they were deadlocked.
You're hung at this time, is that correct?
There were 7 votes to convict and 5 to acquit.
We did what we could with what we had.
Ben Alford and Carrie Kimes were 2 members of the jury who voted to find Chandler not guilty.
I never saw actual evidence that Dana Chandler was ever in the Harkness home. I can't send somebody to spend the rest of their life in prison if you can't even prove she left Colorado that weekend.
The science is not going to solve this case.
Everything that was tested for DNA proved inconclusive, and that's pretty remarkable.
But for juror Randy Edwards, the state's depiction of Dana Chandler's behavior was persuasive evidence.
She was beyond upset. She was obsessed.
He also found those conversations Haley recorded with her mother to be convincing and voted to convict.
Ever think about killing him? No, but I did.
When I was able to comprehend that Dana said that she had thought of killing Mike, that was probably the piece that pushed me beyond any question of reasonable doubt anymore.
There was a split verdict, but the majority of the jury was in favor of a conviction. And that was meaningful.
DA Mike Kagay decided to retry Dana Chandler.
The next issue that we have before the court is a motion to modify bond.
Her lawyers convinced the court to reduce her bond, which allowed her to be released with supervision as she awaited the next trial.
The court is going to direct that she have GPS monitoring.
Welcome home.
Welcome home, Dana.
After spending more than a decade incarcerated, Dana Chandler celebrated her freedom with Daryl Burton and Miracle of Innocence.
Anybody who's getting out of prison after you've been in prison for any length of time, it's a joyous occasion. You're happy that someone's been released, and you also feel like, well, maybe it's a good chance that we can mount a defense and get her totally acquitted.
As a condition of her release, Dana was not allowed to contact her children. Still, Haley worried about her safety. She is married to Chris Seal, her high school boyfriend, and is a mother of 3.
I'm scared to death that she's going to hurt me or she's going to affect my kids in some way.
Haley's fear only grew when Dana made this post to her Facebook page. Chandler complained about her treatment at trial, calling it a kangaroo court. And in the background, she showed images of Haley's children. Haley says Dana somehow learned which church she attended and downloaded a live stream of a service to create the photos.
It was chilling and it was disturbing. I feel like it was a direct message to me.
And what was the message?
Intimidation, I don't care about your boundaries.
Her belief that her mother committed the murders remains unwavering and, she says, disturbing.
She's my mom, but if you're my mom, why would you do that to my dad? For your kid's sake, maybe. Maybe that would be a reason not to do it. Being a mother now, I have a new perspective. It becomes even more unreal now.
Also unreal to Haley, thoughts of a third trial.
What are your expectations for yet again another trial?
This time, I'm not as confident.
For trial number 3, jurors would be from Pottawatomie County, Kansas. The defense requested a change of venue, and the judge agreed, citing excessive media coverage. It would take place in Westmoreland, a smaller, more rural area 60 miles away from the last setting in Topeka.
July 7, 2002 was going to be a good day. Mike Cisco, Karen Harkness, had been in a relationship for a few years.
The trial got underway with opening statements on February 7th, 2025.
One name just kept coming up, Dana Chandler.
Charles Kitt was back retrying the case, joined by prosecutor Dan Dunbar. Judge Cheryl Rios again presided. And in a last-minute change on the morning of opening statements, Dana Chandler dismissed her defense attorneys.
My name is Dana Chandler.
And Dana Chandler decided the best person to represent her was herself.
I am innocent. I did not kill Mike and Karen. I think this case is a character assassination.
In February 2025, Dana Chandler was on trial for the third time for the murders of Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness. But this time, she was representing herself.
She was exercising her constitutional right. It was an unknown. It was certainly unexpected.
One thing that was the same as in the previous trials, Haley Seal testified.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Can you please tell the jury your name?
Haley Seal.
Haley was asked again by the prosecution about her mother's inappropriate behavior.
What sort of things would she say about Karen?
She called her a homewrecker, a slut, very bad names.
Prosecutors were also interested in an incident when Dana Chandler drove Haley and her brother to drop them off at Karen's house.
We waited there for a really long time in the car. Then my dad and Karen got there, and my mom got out and yelled at them and just was very angry with my dad.
Haley, I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
When it was time to be cross-examined, Haley knew it would now be her mother doing the questioning.
Hello, Miss Seal.
I really went up there with like my game face on, you know? I knew it was war. I knew it wasn't gonna be a nice, a cordial, a thoughtful, you're the victim, this was your dad, and I'm so sorry place that she'd be coming from.
Dana Chandler challenged Haley about her description of that drop-off at Karen's. Chandler said it was Haley's father, Mike, who was behaving badly, not her.
When your dad and Karen drove up, your dad stormed over to the car.
Oh, no. No, he did not.
And he started banging on the window.
What? No, he did not. I was inside that car, and my dad absolutely did not bang on the windows.
And I didn't get out of it. I never got out of the car.
You were the first one out of the car.
I was just in disbelief because I knew she just made that up because it never happened and he never did that. But I didn't get concerned. I just
said, no, you know, I'm glad you asked so I could straighten this out. That never happened. And then it comes down to who's believable. And I wasn't worried about that.
As another way to seemingly explain some of her past behaviors, Chandler brought up that she used to have a drinking problem.
And I did tell you that I realized that I had a problem with alcohol.
You did tell me you had a problem with alcohol.
Something Dana said she stopped by 1999, 3 years before the murders.
I told you I was going to 3 AA meetings a day, trying to get well. True?
I knew you were trying to get well, yes.
The state questioned, though, if becoming sober changed Chandler's behavior.
When she came back clean and sober, did that change how she treated you?
No.
Did it change how she talked about your dad?
No.
Did it change how she talked about Karen?
No.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case happened, you're going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Dana Chandler not only thought she was the best person to represent herself, but when it was time to put on her defense, she decided she would be her own main witness.
But I feel like that I need to kind of tell my story to kind of put things in perspective.
She testified over 7 days.
You have not seen evidence that I was in Topeka, Kansas on July 7th of 2002.
Speaking for about 20 hours.
I'd kind of like to review a little where I left off.
There was times when she would take so long to try to get her point across.
Dana Chandler's supporter, Darrell Burton, was concerned when she put herself on the stand.
And sometimes it seemed as though she was just rambling, you know, and that was just unfortunate. She probably knew where she was trying to go, but she'd get lost.
But I continued drinking.
She again addressed issues such as her drinking and inappropriate conversations with Haley.
I was writing emails, drinking to blackout. I'd get up the next morning and not even remember those emails. I had a serious problem. And horrible things I said about Karen spreading her legs. I mean, seriously, Haley was 14 years old. I am just so ashamed and embarrassed about that. And I hated that I put Haley through that.
And Chandler, in her own testimony, addressed again that incident when she waited outside Karen's house to drop off Haley and Dustin with the couple. She said it was done out of necessity.
I yelled through the window I could not afford to feed Haley and Dustin, and that I needed to leave them with him.
Chandler contrasted those times to when she stopped drinking, showing videos of her spending time outdoors with Haley and Dustin.
This video was taken about 9 months into my recovery.
Dana also disputed making frequent harassing calls to Karen and Mike, saying when she called, there was a reason.
I was just calling to speak with my children, Haley and Dustin.
As to her having disagreements with Karen Harkness, she testified there were none.
I never, ever had any confrontations with Karen Harkness at all.
Chandler also pointed out what she said was sloppiness in the police investigation. When Chandler questioned lead detective Richard Voley, she asked about whether police were too focused on her and should have been looking more thoroughly at other possible suspects.
Did you or did you not receive any leads for other suspects besides me?
Early on in the investigation, there were several other people that were looked at as possible leads. So it's a matter of checking people off, to dismissing people that couldn't have done it. When we can't dismiss them, we keep focusing on them, like we did with you.
Chandler, though, said there was an area where she felt law enforcement thoroughly investigated. Whether she bought a 9mm gun like the one used in the murders. And they came up empty-handed.
I've never owned, purchased, or possessed a 9mm firearm.
And throughout her defense, Dana Chandler was adamant that at the time of the murders, she was in Colorado, and no one could place her in Karen's house, or even in Kansas. It seemed like a simple question Dana Chandler was asking Detective Voley.
Did you ever develop any information that I was in Topeka, Kansas on July 6th or 7th of 2002?
But in answering that question, Voley said there was a woman named Patty Williams who may have spotted Chandler in the state of Kansas around the time of the murders.
What do you know about Patty Williams?
She was a clerk at a convenience store in Waukene, Kansas.
The gas station convenience store in Waukene, where Williams worked, was nearly halfway between Denver and Topeka. It had been visited by an investigator searching for locations where someone may have spotted Chandler around the time of the murders. There, the investigator showed Williams this photo of Dana.
She was 7 out of 10 that it was you.
According to Voley, the clerk was 70% sure she had seen Dana Chandler and described some distinguishing features.
She had said that she had gray near the hairline around the temple.
Chandler, though, told the jury she did not have gray hair back then. By the time of the trials, Williams had died and could not be questioned again. Chandler also expressed concern that the investigator only showed a single photo of her initially, instead of an array of photos, including different people, something Voley did do when he went to the gas station about 2 weeks later.
We later went out with what we call a six-pack photo. It's 6 photographs of people that look very similar, and amongst those photos was Miss Chandler.
Voley said Patty Williams immediately picked out Chandler, and again was 70% sure she saw her there. But Voley acknowledged using an array initially would have been better. There was still, for law enforcement, the issue regarding Dana Chandler's alibi. Remember, Voley said Dana told him she was home in her Denver apartment the night of the murders. But she told others, including an acquaintance, Jeff Bailey, she slept in her car in the Colorado mountains that night.
Yeah, I was confused.
Dana Chandler told the jury she had been confused when she spoke with Voley. But Prosecutor Kit was not accepting that explanation.
So what you told Detective Voley is not consistent with what you told Jeff Bailey, is it?
As far as my trip to...
Ms. Chandler, it's not consistent
that
with what
part, okay, yeah, I would agree with that. That's true.
Have you seen that document before?
Once again, those secret recordings Haley made with her mother were played in court.
Ever think about killing him? No, but I did.
This time, Kit questioned Dana herself about its authenticity.
Was that your voice saying, did you ever think about killing him? I did.
It sounds like it, yes.
When it was time for the final witness, Dana Chandler decided it should be Dana Chandler. She knew the jury heard witnesses testify about her parenting and past behavior. Chandler explained if she was a less than attentive mother, it was because of her drinking and a lack of money, not a lack of love.
I absolutely did want to have a relationship with my children. I think the financial, the substance abuse combination, it just wasn't feasible. That's all I have. Thank you. Any thoughts?
Ms. Chandler, during this time that you couldn't afford to feed your children, you were buying booze, correct?
I was.
You're buying enough alcohol to get blackout drunk?
I was.
Okay. Thank you. There are further questions.
Okay.
And with that, after 18 days of testimony, Prosecutor Charles Kitt and Dana Chandler presented their closing arguments.
Why are Mike and Karen dead? And the evidence shows one simple answer: control.
I think Kit nailed it when he said it was about control.
The state described Chandler losing control of Mike as he planned his future with Karen and the rage that followed.
And that's what led to the defendant traveling to Topeka, Kansas on July 6th and murdering them on July 7th.
Kit spoke about Chandler's depiction of events not lining up with the testimony of others.
It's the defendant versus everyone. You can believe the defendant's testimony, or you can believe everybody else that you heard from in this case.
In Dana Chandler's closing, she used a scale to make her point that prosecutors, whom she called her accusers, did not have enough evidence to tip it in their favor.
The accusers must tip the scale. Here I'm innocent. I have my infirmities and I have my shortcomings. But I do stand here before you all today and proclaim that I am an innocent woman.
She acknowledged the life she led was not perfect, but said that doesn't make her a murderer.
The state has woefully failed to meet its burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that I killed Mike Cisco or Karen Harkness.
About 4 hours later, the jury delivered its verdict.
We, the jury, find Dana Chandler guilty of murder in the first degree as charged in count 1. Verdict from count
Guilty
2.
of the murders of Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness. After hearing the verdict, Dana Chandler turned away. And while it was the verdict Haley hoped for, the end result is nothing she ever wanted.
It is so much worse that my mom is the one behind these murders because we lost my dad and Karen, but then through all this now we've lost our mom. I really wish it was someone else.
I don't believe that they have proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Chandler's supporter, Darrell Burton, remains undeterred. He still believes she is innocent.
The evidence just doesn't, prove that she's guilty of anything.
Dana Chandler is filing motions for an appeal. 48 Hours reached out to Chandler again for this episode, but did not receive a response.
I am very confident in this verdict.
District Attorney Mike Kagay is certain the jury convicted the right person.
I have every confidence in my prosecutors and how they handled this case.
The focus of this case has gone almost completely to Dana Chandler, and that the victims has really been lost, which is really sad.
More than 20 years have passed since Mike Cisco and Karen Harkness were murdered, and Haley wants to make sure the lives lost are not forgotten.
I was trying to tell my daughter about who my dad is. And I said, he was a really fun, supportive, encouraging guy who believed in me and my brother. And Karen was so kind, so accepting. I miss them a lot.
"48 Hours. Don't miss an episode."